From beefing with a magazine and making the co-founder quit his job, to destroying Machine Gun Kelly in his diss track to the point where he switched genres, Eminem has been in a lot of intense beefs. A lot of the time, artists or the people he beefs with can recover, but other times, not so much. So today we're going to be looking into different artists whose careers Eminem killed, starting off with Machine Gun Kelly. Real quick, I do want to clarify, a lot of people did kind of transition into different careers after their beefs with Eminem. For example, MGK is widely believed to have stopped rapping after his beef with Eminem for that reason. So while Eminem may have killed his rap career, he seems to be doing pretty well in pop punk, and that's kind of how it is with a lot of the people in this video. But for that reason, we are first going to be looking into Eminem's feud with Machine Gun Kelly, which seems to be the most obvious example of this. So Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem's beef starts long before the infamous diss tracks of 2018. It all started in 2012 when MGK said on Twitter, "Okay, so I just saw a picture of Eminem's daughter and I have to say, she is hot as f," in the most respectful way possible because Eminem is king. Not only was this a weird thing to say about someone's daughter, but he was also 21 and she was 16, which makes it really weird, on top of some other very weird tweets he posted early in his career. Many people think this tweet is what sparked the diss track battles, but MGK has since claimed in interviews that he actually settled it by talking with Eminem's people.
You know, truth be told, we had handled it behind the scenes.
Really?
6 years ago.
So y'all spoke about it?
So after
No, he's a recluse. We can't find him. So we didn't speak. I spoke to Paul Rosenberg and his team because that is as man to man as it gets with him.
Regardless of things being settled or not, MGK continued to hint at a beef with Eminem, especially in a 2015 interview with Hot 97. During the interview, he basically accused Eminem of blackballing him from the industry.
You know, quiet is kept still, you know, is a reason why certain things don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Don't happen.
Right?
Okay.
So like, listen or review this joint. Certain places you won't even hear Machine Gun Kelly on.
Oh.
Certain things
Right.
won't even happen, and
Because of that.
and look, man.
MGK thought that since Eminem was with Interscope and had so much power there, he was trying to influence the label's decisions with his career, although he wouldn't say this until years later. He also thought Eminem was the reason his music wasn't being played on Shade 45. Keep in mind, this whole time, Eminem had said nothing. Then yet again in 2017, MGK dissed Eminem on Tech Nine's song No Reason, when he said, "I pop cherries and pop stars. You popsicles is not hard. Popped in on the top charts, out the cop car. To remind y'all, you just rap, you're not gods." Many people interpreted this diss as a reference to Eminem's rap god, which it was. Tech Nine later had to clarify that he had no idea MGK was dissing him on this song. Then a year later, on his surprise album Kamikaze, Eminem spent half of a verse on the song Not Alike dissing MGK. He mentioned how MGK had to team up with Tech Nine just to diss him, made fun of MGK for sneak dissing, and mentioned how MGK talked about his daughter Haley. This song garnered a ton of attention, along with the entire album, as Eminem was going crazy dissing tons of people. But this beef got super popular because MGK responded with an entire diss track towards Eminem called Rap Devil. He talked about Haley, Em trying to shelve him, and many more things. Just over a week after Kelly released Rap Devil, Eminem responded with his own diss track called Kill Shot. He addressed a lot of what Kelly said, along with a ton of other disses, which really won over the public. It's pretty obvious when you look at the like to dislike ratio as to who the public thought really won. They both followed up these diss tracks doing interviews, and one of the main talking points was whether or not Eminem tried to have MGK shelved. This is what Eminem said.
Actually, a lot more petty than that.
Okay.
The reason that I dissed him is because first when he said, I'm the greatest rapper alive since my favorite rapper banned me from Shade 45 or whatever he said, right? Like I'm trying to hinder his career. So I don't give a f about your career. You think I actually think about you? You know how many rappers that are better than you? You're not even in the conversation. I don't care if you blow or if you don't blow.
So Eminem basically revealed he was upset Kelly was throwing subliminals for a year, talking about his daughter, and making what he said are false accusations about him trying to shelve Kelly's career. Shortly after this, MGK did an interview with the Breakfast Club and said that Eminem was lying.
What Eminem said wasn't true was that he didn't make a call in regards to the daughter situation, and you know, that was false. Jimmy Iovine and Puff conference called me at 9 in the morning with multiple other people. And that was a conversation that happened at 3 in the morning the previous night with Harv Pierre, James Cruz, Paul Rosenberg, James McMillan.
So M lied. He did talk to Puff. Because
M
he
lied.
never talked to Puff.
So we don't really know who's telling the truth here, but the public did side with Eminem. Again, you can just look at the like to dislike ratio on MGK's Breakfast Club interview. MGK said he had another diss track ready, but since he thought Ems was weak, he didn't release it. He even called it a leg shot on Twitter. However, following this beef with Eminem, MGK's career took a turn for the worse. As many of us know, MGK started making rock music shortly after his beef with Eminem, and many people believe that Eminem is the reason that MGK switched genres. Following the Eminem beef, Kelly released the EP Binge, which did okay, but MGK himself claims the beef really hurt his career. He was working on an album called Hotel Diablo, with a couple of tracks that would hint at the direction he would eventually take genre-wise. And when he released it in 2019, it didn't do as well as he had hoped. It had weaker first week sales than any of his other albums, and although it did alright in terms of streams, MGK said himself, as a hip-hop album, Diablo is flawless front to back, and also a hint at the evolution of how I went into a pop-punk album. But it was coming at the tail end of the infamous beef with Eminem, so no one wanted to give it the time of day. So even though he's doing alright with his pop-punk music and his fan base, the beef with Eminem definitely did a lot of damage. MGK hate is everywhere on the internet, and it probably wouldn't be nearly as bad if it wasn't for that beef. And he actually said something that made it seem like Eminem was in one way or another responsible for him switching genres. He said, "The next album came from already feeling like I'd been counted out, so I didn't even care what the public was gonna think." Interestingly enough, in Killshot, Eminem said, "Kelly, they'll be putting your name next to Ja next to Benzino. Die like the last motherfucker that said Haley in vain." Which brings us to our next artist whose career Eminem killed. So as you've seen so far in this video and will continue to see, a lot of people have a bad habit of dissing Eminem, and it's important to replace bad habits with good habits, which is why this video is brought to you by Fume. That was an amazing transition, wasn't it? Fume is an innovative, award-winning device that does just that. Rather than using electronics or vapor, Fume is a completely natural device that uses flavored air. Instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. When I first heard of Fume, I was kind of skeptical and thought it may have been a marketing gimmick, but after using the product myself, I think it's pretty cool. It's literally just flavored air. It has multiple interchangeable cores for flavoring that are made up entirely of essential oils. They come in all sorts of different flavors like maple pepper, sparkling grapefruit, raspberry lemon, white cranberry, and orange vanilla. Your Fume also comes with adjustable airflow dials and has movable parts and magnets, which is perfect for fidgeting, which can be helpful for de-stressing while you're breaking your bad habits. Fume has served over 150,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. So join Fume in breaking up bad habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. So head over to tryfume.com/MattyBalls right now, or scan the QR code on the screen and use code MattyBalls. They're having an amazing 20% off site-wide sale right now until December 1st. And following that, you can still use my code to get 10% off. You can also upgrade your Journey Pack to the Solano to enjoy the premium walnut barrel, the Onyx black coated mouthpiece with a much smoother finish, and still get the discount. So head over to tryfum.com/MattyBalls and use my code to get a nice discount today. Now let's get back to the video. So back in the day when magazines were a big thing, The Source magazine was one of the biggest magazines in hip-hop. The Source magazine did album reviews, and they would rate albums out of 5 mics. And when Eminem's album, the Marshall Mathers LP, came out in 2000, which was arguably his best album and my personal favorite from him, The Source gave it a rating of 2 mics. Ironically enough, M dissed The Source the year prior for giving a group he was friends with, the Outsiders, a 2 out of 5 mics as well. But after The Source gave the Marshall Mathers LP a 2 out of 5 mics, fans got so upset that The Source actually changed the rating to 4. And this is when most people believe the beef started.
When I was a kid growing up in the early 90s on hip-hop, The Source, as we used to know it, was the Bible of hip-hop. Like, it was, their word was gold. If somebody got 4 mics, you was going to copy. If somebody got 5 mics, you was going to copy. Somebody got 3.5, yeah, you know, you didn't know. But their word was gold, and they was usually right.
I know that you have yet to receive a 5 mic review in The Source. Is that something that was...
I have yet to receive even a 4.5. Everybody gets a 4. Everybody, like, that's the standard now. That's the standard. If you get a 4.5, that must mean that Benzino wants you on his album.
It's clear that Eminem used to respect The Source and wanted to get a good score, especially when he said on the song Say What You Say, 5 mics in The Source ain't hold my fucking breath, but I'll suffocate for the respect before I breathe to collect a fucking check. Ironically enough, this song was on the album The Eminem Show, which also received 4 mics. Eminem blamed the co-founder of The Source, Benzino, for this happening. He figured Benzino had a problem with him, and he was right, as Benzino later admitted to blocking his scores from getting 5 mics.
Mainstream media, and it's like, you know, Eminem is the king of hip hop, you know, he's the greatest to ever do it, you know, they're just, you know, going crazy with, you know, the way they're portraying him. And I think that, you know, rubbed Benzino the wrong way, and I think it had him thinking like, you know, this could be bad for hip-hop.
Which is ironic because Benzino was giving his own albums 5 mics, which really hurt the Source's credibility. There was also an incident where Benzino apparently tried to interview Eminem backstage at a show in Puerto Rico, but Eminem ignored him. This is where the beef really picked up, and Benzino released the song I Don't Wanna, where he first dissed Eminem. Apparently after this, 50 Cent was hosting Hot 97, and Eminem called in and said, "I want to request that new Benzino record. It's hot. See if you can find that one and play it for me. You might have to dig in the trash. It may be in the bottom of the trash can." Then Benzino released another diss track called Pull Your Skirt Up. He called Eminem 2003 Vanilla Ice and also mentioned backslapping Eminem's mom. Eminem had vaguely referenced the beef on the song Invasion, but he directly targeted Benzino on the songs The Sauce and Nail in the Coffin, which were both released in late 2002. As you'll see with most of these beefs, the fans preferred Eminem's diss tracks much more. The next month, Benzino released the diss track Die Another Day, and he went all out. He was dissing everyone, calling Eminem racist, and also threatened Eminem's daughter's life. He said, "Tell Haley it ain't safe no more. Daddy better watch your back at the candy store. You fucked up, resort to plan B, fuck around and she end up like John Benet Ramsey." She was also only 7 years old at the time, which is pretty crazy. Then Benzino released a few more diss tracks toward Eminem.
I mean, did something happen to spark that between you and him? Did anything happen? I mean,
Angie, I swear on my daughter's life, I never met this dude. I never met this man, this girl in my life. I never met this woman. She is obsessed with me.
This is when the great magazine beef between XXL and The Source started, with both magazines picking sides between the artists. There were a lot of beefs going on involving Eminem's camp, so many diss tracks were coming out, and M kept throwing shots at Benzino on multiple songs. They actually kept making diss tracks back and forth at each other for a while until in November of 2003, when Benzino and The Source revealed that they had old tapes of Eminem using racial slurs in his songs. There were a bunch of songs which they labeled the racist tapes, which featured Eminem being racist. They played a snippet at a press conference and were planning on releasing a full album of these racist songs. But Eminem sued them so they couldn't release it. Eminem said, "The tape they played today was something I made out of anger, stupidity, and frustration when I was a teenager. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend who is African American, and I reacted like the angry, stupid kid I was. I hope people will take it for the foolishness that it was, not for what somebody is trying to make it into today." Unfortunately for Benzino, Eminem's fans accepted his apology right after it was aired. Then later on in 2005, Benzino left The Source and cited his beef with Eminem as part of the reason he left. So the fact that M was part of the reason this guy quit his job, I'd say he quite literally killed his career. At least his career at The Source, because he's been doing a bunch of other stuff since. Eminem later dropped the lawsuit and seemingly tried to move past the beef, and Benzino has apologized, dissed him, and then apologized again, so it seems like he's a little wishy-washy about it. For a very long time, Eminem actually never said anything about this beef, but he did reference it, like I mentioned earlier, on the Kamikaze album. Vanilla Ice's career was already on a downward trend following Ice Ice Baby, but he had a beef with Eminem that definitely didn't do anything to help him. In 1990, a year after Vanilla Ice released his song Ice Ice Baby, Eminem and his friend Proof, under the group name Soul Intent, released a song called MC Hammer vs. Vanilla Ice. Eminem rapped as Vanilla Ice and Proof rapped as MC Hammer, and were kind of just joking around since it was a parody. Then in the late 90s, Eminem released the songs Just Don't Give a Fuck and Role Model, in which he said, "I'm everlasting, I melt Vanilla Ice like a silicone, I'm ill enough to just straight up diss you for no reason," and grabbed Vanilla Ice and ripped out his blonde dreads. Eminem was clearly not a fan of Vanilla Ice, but at this point in time, Vanilla Ice had not said a word about him. So why did he hate him so much? Well, in an interview in 2005, Eminem recalls his first time hearing Ice Ice Baby and said, "That crushed me. At first, I felt like I didn't want to rap anymore. I was so mad because he was making it real hard for me." Eminem was occasionally compared to Vanilla Ice in his early career since they were both white, but Eminem didn't want to be viewed as a gimmick rapper like Vanilla Ice was. So after Eminem mentioned Vanilla Ice on both of those songs, Vanilla Ice said in an interview with Vibe that Eminem's lyrical skills didn't impress him. In response, Eminem said on the song Marshall Mathers in 2000, "Vanilla Ice don't like me. He said some shit in Vibe to spite me, then went and dyed his hair just like me." This prompted Vanilla Ice to release the diss song Exhale in 2001, in which he said, "You jibber jabber, bullshit flapper, wannabe rapper. Fake mini-me like who? Marshall Mathers." Vanilla Ice had this mindset that he paved the way for Eminem, and even said that in songs, since he was one of the first big white rappers.
Is that, you know, it's obvious that I've left such an impact on his life that he has to mention me without even knowing me on every single record that he makes. He mentions me, a statement about me on there. So I've left an impact on his life, obviously. So he might feel a little inferior. I'm sure when he was coming up, before he had any success, people go, all right, Vanilla Ice, you know, fuck with him, or I'm sorry, mess with him, you know.
Although M attributed the paving the way for white rappers to Third Base much more than he did Vanilla Ice. And that was about it for their beef. Eminem didn't mention Vanilla Ice too much after that, but most fans had decided he won, just because he was the much better artist. If you look at any interviews or songs where Vanilla Ice mentions Eminem, it's pretty obvious in the comments who thinks who won. Vanilla Ice, as he fell from relevancy, continued mentioning Eminem and was much more respectful as Eminem solidified himself as one of the biggest rappers ever. He would later acknowledge Eminem's skill while still saying he wasn't a fan of the music.
I'm not a big fan, to be honest with you. No, but I can see the talent. I can see why it sells. I can see it's commercially mainstream. And, you know, the shock jock value and everything. I ain't hating on Eminem, man.
Vanilla Ice did get a ton of hate while he was rapping, and I think over the years as he's done different things, people began to like him more. But I think regardless of the Eminem beef, Vanilla Ice's career was on a downward trend. But Eminem's jabs at him were probably the final nail in the coffin. Like I mentioned earlier, in the early 2000s, there were a lot of beefs going on in Eminem's camp. One of those beefs was 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. And when Eminem signed 50 Cent to his and Dre's record label, Ja Rule began to target Eminem.
For the shady Aftermath G-Unit family, beef has been a constant. From the melee involving G-Unit Aftermath at the 2004 Vibe Awards, to M's beef with Source magazine owner Benzino, to the well-documented feud between 50 Cent and Ja Rule.
Ja Rule released the diss song Loose Change and came out swinging at Eminem for almost no reason other than him signing 50. Ja took shots at everyone, called Eminem feminem, and told him that he could be the first white rapper slain, and then said, "M, you claim your mother's a crackhead and Kim's a known slut, so what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?" This understandably upset Eminem, who responded on these songs Hail Mary and Do Re Mi. Do Re Mi, also known as Haley's Revenge, was a song that some people claim was Eminem's most ruthless diss track ever. And it was pretty good, as he had his daughter on the song making fun of Ja and brought out D12 and Obi Trice. They sent a few more diss tracks back and forth at each other for about a year, and then Eminem disclosed a story on the song Bump Heads, in which he said, "So what's the big deal? Where was all the tough talk? When I walked up to you like, Ja, what up dog? How come you didn't say you had a problem back then?" M expanded on this in an interview where he said that he saw Ja Rule after signing 50 and was talking to him trying to see if there were any issues about the signing. But Ja Rule apparently didn't say anything about the situation. Then after that conversation, apparently Ja Rule came out talking bad about Eminem and then dropped the diss track, which M claims really blindsided him. To be fair though, Ja Rule also has his own side of the story that he talks about on Vlad TV.
Me and him had a conversation right there.
This was after?
This was while it was...
Oh, while it was happening?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it was a man-to-man, respectful conversation. Like, I know what it is, M. And M's like, you know, I don't really got no hard feelings towards you. It's just, that's home team, and it's a rap beef. And
he signed to my label.
He signed to my label, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I know what it is, you know what I'm saying? I said, I ain't got nothing against you neither.
Eminem kind of chilled out on beefs after deciding it wasn't good for his mental health and talked about it a lot on the song Like Toy Soldiers.
What the intent of the song, what the intent was to do is to just say from, at least from our side, like this is a chapter in our lives that we want to close and we want to move on from this beef. So we're closing this chapter.
It's pretty apparent with lyrics like, "That Ja shit, I tried to squash it, but it was too late to stop it. There's a certain line you don't cross and he crossed it. I heard him say Haley's name on a song and I just lost it. And even though the battle was won, I feel like we lost it." Following the beef, Ja Rule continued doing his own thing. I've seen people online in articles claim that it seems as if Adkins, Ja Rule, was relying on Jackson, 50 Cent, and Mathers, Eminem, to stay in the spotlight. And while I wouldn't say his beef with Eminem killed his career, it definitely didn't help it. As we've seen with everyone else on this list, the fans always tend to side with Eminem. Eminem and Nick Cannon's beef began years ago, back in the early 2000s when Eminem was beefing with Mariah Carey after he claimed they had dated. She denied it and they went back and forth for a while, but then in 2008, Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey got married. So the following year, on the song Bagpipes from Baghdad, Eminem said, "Mariah, whatever happened to us? Why did we have to break up? Nick, you had your fun. I've come to kick you in your sack of junk." Nick then responded with a Tumblr post that addressed the situation, and he brought up the racist tapes I mentioned earlier. But after that, it seemed like the beef was over. Then randomly, 10 years later, it was reignited when Nick Cannon talked about the situation on T.I.'s podcast.
And this motherfucker drop a song, like, talking shit, like calling her all kind of and I'm like, this is my wife. This is my new wife. Ooh. I got it. Like,
Nick actually probably was in the right to begin with, since he just wanted to be a man about it since M went after his wife. He said at first he wanted to fight him, but cooler heads prevailed, so then he just wanted to talk about it. This interview though seemingly upset Eminem, who responded on a verse on Fat Joe's song Lord Above, in which he said, "I know me and Mariah didn't end on a high note, but that other dude's whipped, that pussy got him neutered. Tried to tell him this chick's a nut job before he got his jewels clipped. Almost got my caboose kicked. Fool quit. You not gonna do shit. I let her chop my balls off too before I lost to you, Nick." Nick responded with a series of Instagram posts kinda trolling Eminem. Then he released a diss track called The Invitation. I think if Nick Cannon just left off on the interview and didn't say anything else, he would have been good. But The Invitation was probably the worst diss track I've ever heard. He also tried the tactic we've seen where he's his wife and Haley, which didn't help the song at all. It has over 600,000 dislikes, and the comments really go to show who thinks who won. Even 50 Cent told Eminem after this came out, "Don't even say nothing to him, the record is terrible." M posted a couple tweets about it, but that was it. The next day, Nick released the diss track Pray For Him, and again, Nick got clowned. The top comment on the vid was, "Eminem is so good he made history. The first rapper to win a rap battle without even rapping." Nick Cannon then released yet another diss song called Invitation Cancelled, and in this one he sampled the racist tapes I mentioned earlier and basically just went all out calling Eminem racist. Again, people clowned Nick with comments like, "Imagine shooting someone with their back turned, missing 3 shots, and not even getting that person to turn around." Because it was literally the third diss track Nick had released within the span of 11 days without a response from Eminem, unless you count the 2 tweets. Nick kinda kept it going for too long, was spamming tweets about it, and was definitely dragging the beef out, especially since M hadn't responded. Nick also claimed he won, which by court of public opinion clearly was not true. Also, he just kept talking about Eminem on songs following the 3 main diss tracks, which at that point was just embarrassing. This made Nick look very corny to onlookers, especially to people who didn't know the context, and he even admitted this himself while mentioning his real intention was to get M on Wildin' Out.
I was a little overzealous. I was a little heavy-handed. I'm gonna say a couple of things. One, first of all, I love Eminem. As an artist, the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers, those are like some of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot that went on there. One, the whole goal was to get him to come on Wildin' Out and acknowledge us, like, so that there was a mission to it. Cause I was like, yo, that'd be the most amazing show ever.
So while Nick has a successful TV career, his beef with Eminem definitely did no service to his music career. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for making it all the way to the end if you did. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Other than that though, this has been Matty Balls, and I'll see you guys next time.